Right, back in 2014, Ben and Marina Fogle tragically lost their baby son, Willem, at 33 weeks. Despite their heartbreaking experience, they've kept his memory alive through charity work and honest conversations with their other two children. They're here today to tell us how sharing the pain of their loss has really helped them. Hi, Ben and Marina. Thank you so much. So lovely to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. So Marina, you went to hospital not feeling very well, and then things turned dramatically very quickly for you.
Yeah, so I was 33 weeks pregnant and we were on holiday in Austria, where my family are from. And I just woke up one day just not feeling a bit crampy, not feeling great. And then suddenly I just felt awful. I'm really lucky because my sister and father are both doctors, and they both said, you need to go to hospital immediately. And they called an ambulance. And it was lucky they did, because what had happened was that I was experiencing a placental abruption, where the placenta detaches from the side of the uterus and essentially starves your baby of oxygen. And it's something that's really unusual. It's really rare. There were no kind of warning signs for me. But it did mean that Willem was sadly stillborn. And so Ben was actually in Canada when it happened. It was very difficult for him because he got a call in the middle of the night saying, Marina's in hospital. We don't know if the baby's going to survive. We don't know if she's going to survive. So it was very dramatic.
Yeah. And then you had that very long journey back, Ben, not knowing. It's just unimaginable.
It's there are one of the reasons why we share this with people, I think, is just to turn what is a taboo subject into something that we have conversations about. I think before this happened to us, and we'd had miscarriages before this event, it was something that was talked about in hushed tones, maybe just between immediate family. And I think all those things you don't think about, how you're going to bury your son, how you're going to repatriate the ashes, how you're going to tell all your friends, how when people come up and say, oh, what did you have, when they no longer see the baby bump. All of those things are quite difficult to wade through. And I've done some difficult things in my life, but I don't think anything fully prepared me for this. If I'm to be really honest, I hate talking about this. I don't mind admitting that, but we do, and I do for a number of reasons. I do for Marina, and I do for charities like Tommy's that we support, and for all the other mums and dads out there. Because it's interesting when you see how society reacts to subjects like this. You guys talking about Chrissy Teigen earlier this year, The Guardian and Catherine Viner, the editor, printing stories talking about privileged pain in reference to Cameron losing his son. Believe me, when you're privileged, and Marina and I are privileged, there is no cushioning against the pain. The pain is terrible, and talking about it like now opens that wound that starts to heal. But we made a decision that we wanted to help others, and the emails and the letters we get kind of make it worthwhile.
But Ben, you've just touched on it there. How much does it take out of you to continue talking about this publicly? I mean, I know within your family, you think it's important for your family to talk about it, but how much does it take out of you to be talking about it on a public stage? Maybe Marina, can I ask you?
Do you know what? I think it actually makes me stronger. There is such a period of adjustment. You know, the thing that I never expected, I never prepared for what happened to us. And there was an element of waking up in the morning, even months afterwards, just thinking, did this really happen, or was it a dream? And it was almost like I was pinching myself. And they talk about this sort of adjustment being this huge sort of, journey you have to go on. And for me, the more I vocalized what had happened, the more it sort of sent that message to my brain. And what was really difficult for me is that I teach antenatal classes. I was teaching while I was pregnant, and the guilt of having to tell specifically the group that I was teaching, and we were all expecting our babies to be born at the same time, that the kind of unthinkable had happened to me. That was really difficult. And when I introduce myself to a new group, I tell them about Ludo and Iona, but I can't not tell them about Willem, because he existed and he was there, and that's our reality. And by not talking about it, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. And actually, I do think society needs to be better at talking about baby loss. As Tommy said, says 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in loss, and that is not that's not the kind of loss that I experienced. What happened to me is very, very, very rare. The majority of baby loss happens in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. But I do think we need to acknowledge that this happens. I believe that children need to learn about miscarriage and baby loss at the same time they're learning about sex education, so that we can actually have important conversations, A, to help people who experience it, but B, to kind of push the bounds of science to ensure that where it can be prevented, that it is prevented.
How difficult was it to talk to your 2 children about it?
Well, it was hard. You know, I don't think I'll ever forgive myself being in Canada and being so helpless. But when I finally got to Austria, which was pretty traumatic in itself, you know, going into the hospital with the children, we've always lived a very open, honest life. We do with the public. I think if you're in a privileged position of being in the public eye, I don't think you should sugarcoat your life. I don't think you should pretend it's all idyllic and perfect when it isn't. And we've always been very honest with that, and that's our style of parenting as well. So we were told at a very early stage, we had some counselling, and we were told to make sure that we talk to our children, because actually the fear of the unknown is far worse. So if we suddenly just said, oh, your little brother disappeared and he was taken up into the sky, they're going to think very literally at that stage. You know, they were a lot younger than they are now. So we told them, and we still talk about it. You know, this is, again, one of the complex minefields. When someone says, how many children do you have? Do you say we have 2, but we had 3? Do you say we have 2 and dishonor the little life that was so nearly there but wasn't? So these are all the kind of complex things that do come into it. But I think it's fair to say we've always been very honest with our children, and actually if they see strength in you, and that doesn't mean no tears, by the way, but if they see strength in you, I think it helps them with their own understanding.
I think parenting is a series of conversations. It's all about communication. And those conversations are often difficult. You're often going to have, you know, uncomfortable conversations where your children disagree. And for us, we happen to have a really difficult conversation with our children pretty early on in their life. But I do think what that left us with was trust. You know, they can trust us to always tell them the truth, even if that truth is really uncomfortable. And I think that's been that sort of set the tone for the relationship that we have with them. And I do think that's quite an important thing to understand. You know, life is not a bed of roses ever, and especially when it comes to your children, you are going to have difficult conversations with them at some stage.
Marina, I know you've said before that you know, we know Ben as an adventurer, and he might go and climb a mountain, and that's his way of coping. What's been your way of coping?
Do you know, I've found it really empowering to get involved with Tommy's. I not only see how they support people, parents who've lost, or families really, because it's very, you know, sometimes goes beyond the actual parents who've lost children, but also I've gone to their you know, research centres. I've gone up to Manchester, where I see the work they're doing on understanding kind of the behaviour of the placenta, and hopefully understanding what happened to me, and eliminating placental abruption as a risk for pregnancy, but also their recurrent miscarriage unit at Queen Charlotte's Hospital in London. It's extraordinary the work they're doing and the tenacity they're showing. You know, what Tommy's does is they fund seed research. So they fund the small ideas before they have lots of evidence to show they work. And the NHS doesn't do that. The NHS will only fund a project once there is some evidence that it does work. But obviously you need a lot of money and time to get to that stage, and so much of what Tommy's has invested in the early sort of stages has reached, you know, care in the NHS. And for me, that is the most positive thing to come out of it. I remember the first time I went up to Manchester to see Dr. Alex Heasel and the work he's doing with placentas. I just came back feeling so positive, thinking, you know, my children and my grandchildren are probably not going to experience baby loss because of, you know, advances in medicine, and I love seeing that.
Well, listen, Ben and Marina, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today, and I know that this will have helped many people listening today, so thank you so much. And if you've been affected by anything we've talked about with Ben and Marina, head to our website for more information and support.